Welcome back, everyone. This is Maria Karekla from Arendt Investor Services, and I'm here together with a professional in transfer agent, Lhora Campbell in BNY. She has been in BNY for 15 years, and now she's the lead of service delivery manager. And we're here to discuss and deep dive about the share register and what it needs to be aware of a transfer agent professional about the share register. And Lhora, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Can you please summarize what is a share register and the purpose and the importance of a share register in the profession of a transfer agent?
Absolutely. So in simple terms, the share register is the record of all shareholders of a corporation. It details their names, their registered address, the quantity and class of shares that they own. And it's not just a data table. It's a legal instrument that's recognised by regulators and jurisdictions worldwide. So it's very, very key that the information that is held on that share register is accurate. And we'll talk more about that as I talk to you today about what the main elements that are required on the share register are, where transfer agency comes into that process, and what the issue could be if that share register is not accurate.
I'm taking some key words that you mentioned. So a share register is a legal document, so the importance can be against the law or against the court or anyone that can challenge. But what can be challenged? What is it recorded there? Is it like the ownership? Is it the actual names of the investors, their commitment? What would you say that if a TA professional should look into a share register first, that would be?
Absolutely. I will go into the details that are required in that share register, but you're correct, Mia. It is very important and, in fact, mandatory under most regulatory frameworks that the share register has certain data elements so that we can then tie up the number of shares held by an individual or by a company, especially in the case of a redemption or a corporate action, as an example. There has been examples in the past where a share register has not been maintained correctly, and therefore that has led to fines and also reputational damage to the company dealing with that as a result of that not being correct.
Negligent. So let's say I am an investor in a real estate fund. I would like to invest. I would like to commit my funding to the fund. I have been onboarded. I'm ready for subscription. What are the key elements which you require to register in the share register, and what is important for me to know?
Absolutely. So as part of that onboarding process, we'll ensure that we have all of the data that's required for the register. So the full legal name of the shareholder, the registered address, and that ensures that we can deliver statutory notice, any corporate action materials, and we'll have received the paperwork that backs that up through our onboarding process to ensure that the name that we hold on our register has evidence behind it, that we've got the correct shareholder there. In addition, we'll hold the number of shares held when you invest with us or when a transfer is made into your name. We will distinguish the share class, and that's vital because different share classes hold different powers, maybe voting powers or dividend preferences. And we'll also assign a unique accounts number to each shareholder so that all of that data that is pertains to that shareholder is all held in one place, and we can identify one shareholder from another on our register.
So it's like the investor's ID in the fund.
Exactly that.
And this can be his entitlement at the end of the year about his power in the fund. Is that correct?
Exactly. So in addition to all of that personal or company information about the shareholder, we'll also log the dates of initial registration, any subsequent transactions, and therefore we have a full audit trail and history of that investor and what they have done since they've been invested with us.
Perfect. If there is any changes, because I can get that an investor or a fund, I mean that's a live document that it can be changed. What can be done if there is? Is it like set in stone from the beginning, or is it flexible? Can we amend, update? Is it?
Yes.
What can you say?
So we do have a process for updating the share register details. It is not static, although we do call it static data changes. So there may be a change of address, there may be a change of name, a company may have been incorporated or changed their name, and we'll need to update that because our register needs to reflect accurately the holder of those shares. And as soon as the transfer agent receives that information, we will need to update it immediately so that we have that updated in case of any future action by the investor. We will also require some paperwork behind that. We don't just take a change of name because somebody's emailed us. We have processes in place within Transfer Agent to be able to check that we have the required paperwork behind that before we effect the change on the register.
Perfect. So if there is any change of register address, they need to accompany, they need to back it up with a utility or a register address documentation. If there is an investor that wants to invest or wants to redeem some shares, if there is any changes in the ownership of an investor, what is the role of a transfer agent? How is the process of this updating of the investor's ownership in the share register?
As a transfer agent, we will undertake periodic reviews to ensure that all of the data we hold is accurate. And if there is to be a change of beneficial owner, that is also something that we will need the paperwork behind and documentation behind. Our AML teams will review that. We'll ensure that within the regulatory framework here in Luxembourg that we have all the paperwork required before we make any changes to beneficial owners, as an example.
So always there is a direct connection with the AML team, and the TA needs to work closely. That's what I get. And you said periodic calculations. Is it linked to this NAV calculation?
We do periodic reviews to make sure that our register is accurate. Whenever we make a change to the register, we have an audit trail behind that. We make sure, as I say, that we've got the documentation on file to support any changes that we've made. And that is so important when we have to report to the CSSF or any regulator that we have all of the audits and backup data that's required to show why those changes have been made and what we've done as a firm to ensure that those changes were made correctly.
I'm taking advantage of what you said about the CSSF. Who has the right to inspect the share register? I guess that the investor himself can look at the share register, but who else can have a look at this legal document, and who is actually validating the entries that the TA is doing in the share register?
Within transfer agency, we have our own controls and checks. So there's always a maker checker on any change that's made. We have, most firms will have internal audit who will do periodic reviews, which will look at the register and any actions taken within transfer agency. The CSSF would be able to review that. As you say, the investor would be able to request the information. We hold on them. They also receive statements, and we will do things like FATCA reporting as well, where they have to attest if there has been any change. And as a transfer agency, we're working on behalf of our contractual clients, so they would also be able to have a look at their register for their subset of funds.
Who actually is your contractual client? I guess it's the fund, but I suppose, and I think it's really important to say, like the actual signature of every entry is coming by the board. So the board is actually holding accountable of the share register entries that the TA is doing, right?
That is correct. The board are accountable on any changes there. And as a transfer agency, we're there to support our clients and their boards through that process.
Again, the transfer agent, as we saw in previous episodes, again, the transfer agent is there to accommodate and to do the administrative work. But for every entry, the board of directors holds accountable, and it's the ultimate body that has the ownership and the responsibility of the share registry entries.
Absolutely. As you say, we are the administrators, but it is not our share register. It is the fund and the board share register. We are the custodians of that register.
Exactly. Can you please let us know about the best practices and the role of a transfer agent in recording the entries in the share register and keeping the share register are always up to date?
Absolutely. So the role of the transfer agent, as I say, we administer that share register. We ensure that all transactions are processed accurately and promptly. Our day-to-day tasks can include processing share transfers, handling issuance and redemption requests, reconciling data. We also manage dividend distributions, and we make sure that any changes that we made are reflected in that register in a timely manner, so that the client and their board have an accurate record for their activities. It's probably quite timely to talk about the changes that we see in our industry. Some transfer agents are starting to look at digital registers.
Absolutely. Please let us know about this.
So they're starting to pilot digital registers. It's the way that the world is working. We're not where we were 40 years ago, where people were still printing out paper and stamping and things like that. In BNY, our register is not digital yet, but we are very digital oriented as a business, and therefore we are looking at how can we ensure the accuracy using the tools that are now available to us that were not previously, to update our register as quickly and accurately as it can be done.
Because as you said, we need to record the entries on a timely manner. So time is key in recording the entries. We need to show to the fund and the results and all of the movements and the redemptions and the distributions on a timely manner.
And to the investor as well. They want to know that the instruction they have given has been undertaken. So it's key that we can feed back to the investor that a change of name has happened or that a change to the register has happened, so that they can then move on with their next action.
That's really nice. Lhora, that was a really enlightening what you said. Do you have any example that you can, if you can give us like the essence of something that a TA out of your experience needs to be aware or cautious, or something that make raise your hazard or your radar while you were in this industry and this profession for so many years?
Absolutely not. I would like to point out my TA, but I have seen some examples where a share register had not been updated. We talked about accuracy and timeliness all the way through. And I have seen examples of companies who have not made those changes in an accurate and timely manner, which has then led to, for example, address information being outdated for some of their shareholders, and therefore delays the action that they're trying to take, costs them administrative fees, costs them reputational damage, and also could ultimately end up with a fine with the regulator, depending on how heavily that impacts their shareholders and their ability to do that.
Have you seen the regulator being very cautious and rigorous over the share register? have you seen any of these fines being imposed recently or throughout your career? I mean, is it something important that a regulator takes into serious account?
I think it is something. It's not something that I've seen happen in my business, but I have seen some of our competitors have had fines. As you can probably tell by my accent, I'm not a Luxembourg native, so I worked in UK TA for a number of years before I came to Luxembourg. And all regulators take quite a stern approach to a share register not being accurate, and fines have been applied by regulators globally in different jurisdictions because companies have fallen foul of that.
As you mentioned, the different jurisdictions, do you think in Luxembourg we take serious account of the share register and how to treat the investors, minority or majority investors? Is it something that you see that we need to improve?
I think it's something that is taken seriously here in Luxembourg, and I think because of the nature of our regulator here in Luxembourg, who are probably closer to businesses in Luxembourg than many other jurisdictions, I think that companies do work well with the regulator within those regulations and understand how critical it is if we do not follow the regulations the CSSF have set out to us. Certainly, BMY work closely with the CSSF. We have a very good relationship with them, but we are aware that other companies can not necessarily have followed the regulations as closely and therefore fall foul of them.
That was a really nice conversation about share register. As a conclusion, if the young professionals in TA needs to take away from this conversation 2-3 points, what would that have been?
I think for me, the key points for someone new into transfer agency, when we're talking about shareholder register, we've talked about those keywords, timely and accuracy. If you receive an instruction, then you need to enact that quickly to make sure the register is as up to date as it can be. Reconciliation is really important, making sure after the fact that all of the updates we have received have been enacted into the register, and making sure that we document our processes for doing that so that anybody, whether they've been in transfer agency for 10 years or 10 weeks, can follow that process end to end.
Perfect. Thank you so much for this conversation.
Thank you.